I'd like to call to order the October 7th, 2021 Board of Adjustment meeting. Could I get a roll call, please, Brandy?
Yes. Hanson.
Here.
Brink.
Here.
Oletsky.
Present.
Dolly.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
And then Kays, Dargis Johnson, Liam, Culhane, and Spire are absent. We do have a quorum with 5.
Okay, thank you for that. Third item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the September 9th, 2021 meeting. Could I get a motion and a second?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote, Brandy.
All right. Dolly.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Brink.
Yes.
Oletsky.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Fourth item on the agenda is our regular agenda, and 4A is board consideration of a conditional use for apartments in the C1 Community Commercial District at 15 First Street Northwest. Brandy, would you take over, please?
Yes, thank you, Jeff. So as Jeff stated, this is a conditional use request in the downtown district. It's a C1 community commercial at the corner of Kemp and First Street Northwest. And so they're asking for apartments using the upper floors of commercial buildings. And when they're asking for more than 4 units, it has to come before the board for a conditional use. So what they're looking at, this is the Marketplace project, and the owner is 15 DTW LLC at the address of 15 First Street Northwest. And this property has came before us for a TIF previously, where the project entails commercial space, so demoing the current building and then doing new construction with commercial space on the main floor, and then parking underground and some on the main floor as well. And then the apartment units would be on the upper floors of that commercial space, which is slated to be about 8,000 square feet. And so they're planning on doing 62 units. And when we've seen requests like this come before the board, parking is something that is not a requirement in the downtown district, but it's something that the board wants to review to make sure that there are that's been taken into consideration. And with this application, they do plan on having 64 off-street parking spaces, and then adjacent to the property, there are 22 on-street spaces. And then also, I mean, this entire block, I mean, anywhere downtown, that's the point of downtown parking and not having that parking requirement. But if you would add the 22 and the 64 together, that would be 86 spaces. And if this were in a C3 district per se, then it would be 1 space per bedroom, which that would equal 78 spaces for the amount of units and bedrooms that they are proposing. So that is within that 86 spaces that this property would be bringing or be having available. So I think with that, I'll open it up for any questions from the board.
Okay, thank you, Brandy. Thank you for that introduction. And, 62 apartments sounds like a lot, but this was planned to be 46 of them are just single bedroom apartments, and then there were 16 2-bedroom apartments. And that's where we came up with the 78 total parking spaces. And then, if we did compare that to what we require in any of our other districts, it's 1 parking space per bedroom. So that's where, we look at the 86 is greater than 78. So I appreciate you pointing out the parking, because that was going to be a question of mine. Another question I have for you is, when we did our TIF, that included apartments, right? This is falling in line with what has been previously approved.
Yep.
Did it have the same number of apartments, or did it say, do you remember?
The units are in line with what was proposed at that time. And what I have pulled up here on the screen is the rendering that was part of the TIF plan. And at the time when we approved the TIF, we did understand that he would come back for the conditional use for the apartments over 4 units.
You're right. I just wanted to make sure that nothing had substantially changed, or it was still relatively the same concept plan that had previously been through us in council and approved. So there any other
I
questions
think
from the
as-
board members?
As Brandy noted, normally the parking's not an issue with the C1 per se, that it's a requirement, but what we do want to make sure that we do is when we have a large development such as this, that we are accommodating some of that parking on site. And we do treat it slightly different than we would in a different district because we do have an extensive amount of street parking available, as well as public parking extensively throughout the downtown area. Walkability, of course, being a key aspect of how downtown development and redevelopment is taking place in our community and many others.
And some of these, with the commercial spaces, that's going to be on-street parking too, off-site parking, or is there going to be some parking for the commercial on-site?
And for that, if you want to open the public hearing, that might be more appropriate for the applicant to answer.
I see the applicant walking up, so I will open up the public hearing so that, and please state your name for the record.
Sure. Eric Scott with Creststone Companies, which is 50% of 15 DTW LLC, the owner. Is there the overhead camera thing?
Yes. Oh, no?
No. Okay. So we have some off-street.
Draw us a picture with your words.
With my words, yes. So that drawing is very conceptual, was very preliminary, but if you look at the space,
Let's look at it maybe like.
yeah, there you go. That's better. So let me use Brandy's cursor here. The footprint of the building actually gets smaller this way and this way. And so what we do, we have 7 parking spaces along this edge, and we have 20 ground level parking spaces throughout here. We've got some commercial space here and commercial space through here. This area is intended to be a courtyard area and just kind of a nice area where you can put picnic tables, and it'll a lot depend on what the businesses we have are. If we do end up with a parking issue, I kind of sketched it out, and I can fit another 7 spaces between this space here, and then there's actually a couple parallel parking spaces here. I don't think it's going to be a necessity, but if it is, obviously, as developers and people wanting to rent this out, we want to make sure we have sufficient parking because that's going to make us successful. So those 7 spaces or potentially 14 spaces through that little courtyard area would be public parking spaces. So the nice part is generally, people, the apartment people are around in the evening and the businesses are used during the day. So that works well.
Thank you.
So,
Go ahead.
when we talk, again, parking is going to become an issue downtown as all of the development we're having. I guess what's the city or the street department's plan for snow removal in the evenings? And if we are using this on-street parking, do we have a plan or?
There always has been in place that if it's over 2 inches, I believe that they can't park there past midnight, I believe. So they do have policies in place already, and then it's signed as well, so that they can get in there and do snow removal.
And I assume that we talked to city utilities about refuse and those type of things. Are they, we have a plan for garbage pickup and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, and when it's mixed use, it's actually a commercial hauler provides that service. So then Creststone will just look at that as to who they're going to have provide that service, and then make sure that it's in a convenient location. So any mixed use building is commercial hauler.
And we've made use of, we've worked through our architect with the placement of that, and the logistics of that we'll work through with our sanitation company to, obviously it's a downtown site, it's a tight site. So it'll be also, the nice part is you don't even need to worry about screening because it'll all be stored indoors, and the sanitation company will have to have a key so that they can push it out, dump it, push it back in, so.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for the applicant as he's still at the podium?
How many commercial spots are you going to have, do you think?
How many, like, tenant spaces or park? Okay. we've got about, so I anticipate it'll be one spot on Kemp Avenue adjacent there. That's about 2,000 square feet. And then we have 8,000 square feet on the, what I would call the east wing there. That I would anticipate that would get divided up into anywhere from 2 or 3 spaces to up to 4 spaces. So we may carve some of that out for a on-site gym or some area for tenants as well, but.
Brandy, I'm going to say half the alley that comes off Kemp, that is a public alley or is that a private?
That is public.
All right, and that will remain.
Yep, unless the petition to vacation would come forward, and then that would come as a separate application to the board.
Correct.
Jeff, this is Ford.
Go ahead, Diana.
I'm happy to hear the developer talk about that courtyard area, and I would hope that it would remain that way. While, as with the parking, playgrounds aren't generally considered part of the C1 requirements. But this is our 5th large apartment development in downtown. Many of those occupants will be children, and that's why I was thrilled to hear about the courtyard. Will there be any playground equipment in there?
That's a good point. I don't anticipate putting playground equipment in there. I think typically our demographic that we see for these types of units, or even our apartment units we have over on Willow Creek, tend to be, younger. The younger really it ends up being up to 30 before they have kids, and then kind of 50 or 55 and over, the empty nesters, and I would anticipate that would be even more so downtown. So. Of course, there can be kids. There's no exclusions. I don't anticipate having a lot of children to where we would put playground equipment, or that would be beneficial to the development.
And
And I had one
Diana, I was just going. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to point out that about 75% of the rooms are 1-bedroom rooms, which usually wouldn't be occupied with children. I mean, usually you got a single guy or gal occupying that, maybe with their spouse, but usually there isn't very many kids in a 1-bedroom apartment, so that might limit it just on that regards.
And I just wanted to point out too that proximity wise for this project and then where the downtown plaza is slated to go, and it will include playground equipment, it's 4 blocks down. So that is nice proximity then for these apartment units downtown to provide that recreational outlet for if there would be children or adults that want to utilize the space. So
Lions Park is nearby too, which is a nice amenity for potential tenants here. It's definitely within walking distance. So
yeah,
That was going to be my next question, Brandy. Is that definitely included in the plans for the downtown plaza to have playground equipment in that area?
the last rendition that I saw it did, and that was a high priority actually throughout the process. So I believe that is the plan.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, you bet.
All right, thank you. And the public hearing is open. I would like to give other people an opportunity to come up to the microphone and either speak in favor or against this item if they so choose, or if they're online, they can join us that way as well.
My name is Chuck Paulus, and I own the building on the corner there, and there's an easement across the back of that lot that
Would you mind sitting and then speaking into the mic just so?
an easement across the back of that is available for my renters park behind that building. And I just want to make sure that that easement is honored, and so that they can get in and out of there to park.
That's a very good point. I think that kind of brings up the point earlier about this isn't vacating any easements or alleys, and with this proposal, it certainly isn't. If they ever wish to vacate something, they would have to come back before us again, and that couldn't happen on this with this action.
So it shows a vacated alley on the maps that I've seen, And plus the easement is south of that.
Chuck, where's your building at?
the
Is
cor-
that corner one
corner
that's
building.
going around it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
Yep.
thank you.
the corner of First and Kemp.
Mr. Chair, if I could just interject quickly, I did talk with Mr. Paulus on the phone, and we did confirm that the applicant, who could also confirm this, is aware of that access easement there, and it's how important it is to get around there for access to the back of the building. So the access will not be changed. It's not intended to be changed in any way with the project.
And he has, the site plan does include that would remain an access easement, that curb cut will remain.
Okay, that curb cut though goes into the vacated alley.
Yep, and so at the time when the alley was vacated, an access easement really should have been retained at that time. But what, in their site plan process, they are showing a access easement so that will be retained.
So they'll make it accessible into the easement part instead of a curb.
Yeah, so like it'll reserve that curb cut and then extend it along your property there to the north so that you are able to access it.
Okay.
Yes, you will be
right?
able to retain access to the back of your building there,
Yeah,
as you have been, yes.
Yeah, that's where my tenants park, so I'm just curious.
That's a good point, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to have on record, and I can see where you're coming from with the legal description being lots 3 through 7, yada yada yada, including vacated alley, block 6. So I see where you're coming where it says vacated alley, but that is the vacation of that alley is nothing to do with what we are doing today. That, you know, whatever access easement is now there is not being changed by today's board action. So I'll go on record as saying that. But that was a very good point to point out and have on record. Is there anyone else in the audience or online that wishes to speak in favor or against this item? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Whenever I look at conditional uses, I try to go through the checklist of the A through G that's required by our ordinance. And I know you guys do as well, and that's where our, help us, come to our questions that we ask and how we review those site plans. So when I look at what our ordinance requires and what this site plan shows, I feel like I can support this apartment complex. Any other
Yeah, I think
comments?
this
from
is,
the-
and we've talked about it in previous times that we saw this property, but it's certainly in keeping with the redevelopment goals of the downtown district and supporting walkability of downtown and mixed-use development. So I think it's a good project. The one question really being that we've got enough adequate parking, and I think the parking plan that was submitted is pretty good.
Any other comments from the board?
I will also say, Jeff, this is Ford again, that I did notice that the required sign has been posted appropriately on the building that has the address for this proposal.
Good, yeah, no, that's always good to make sure we're crossing our Ts and dotting our Is. Hearing no other comments, Brandy, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
All right, Aletsky,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes,
Dolly.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Moving on in the agenda, item 4B is board consideration of 3 variances at 603 First Avenue Northwest. Brandy, will you pull up that property and talk about those variances with us?
Yes, thank you, Jeff. So for proximity here, this is at just to the south of Lions Park, actually, along 3rd Avenue, and then the vacated portion of First Avenue Northwest. It has double frontage. It's the lot highlighted here at 603 First Avenue Northwest. And so this property is zoned I-1 light industrial. And as you can see, well, actually, the I-1 light industrial district requires 30,000 square feet for a minimum lot size. And this lot exists and was platted, and this lot is 11,066 square feet. So it is quite a bit smaller than what we require for minimum lot size. However, it has been previously platted and has existed as this zoning designation for quite some time. And so that is why we broke these into 3 separate variances, because we're looking at a side yard variance, a side yard setback variance, and then also just for the construction of this new structure on an I-1 lot that is that doesn't meet the minimum lot size requirements, basically. So there's a provision in ordinance that allows it for residential, and it's just not clear with commercial properties. So just to be safe, we wanted to at least just put that out there and let the board consider that. But the main item that that the applicant is requesting a variance for is, let me get to it here. Get off of this one. Okay, so the applicant, the owner, is Gary and Linda Markman, and so what they're proposing, oh, I thought maybe we had, okay, so basically a 10-foot side yard setback instead of the required 20. So the I-1 district requires 20-foot side yard setbacks, and so what they're planning on doing is demolishing the current structures, which are residential in nature, so it actually brings the property into conformance and gets rid of the that nonconformity, and then they would build a new industrial property, and actually it's a shop for their business to store their material, and they do tree what's the proper
Tree removal, landscaping, I believe.
Yeah, and then milling. So it's to store their equipment. And so if they, with the lot being smaller in size, they would only be able to utilize 20 feet for a building, for the width. If they adhered to the 20-foot side yard setbacks that are required in I-1, the building itself would only be able to be 20 feet. So they're requesting the variance for 10-foot side yard setbacks. And with that, I'll open it up for board questions.
Thank you, Brandy. I appreciate that introduction. Yeah, this one is kind of unique in that you know, our ordinance says 30,000 minimum size and 100-foot minimum lot area, but this plat is completely platted. It's legal. It's not a, you know, west 40 feet of such and such lot. No, this is lot 6 of this subdivision, so it is legally platted. So you know, this was before that ordinance, and I kind of want to point that out because I feel like when we wrote these, you know, the size requirements and, you know, width requirements, you know, one of the main things we're looking at with that is how we're doing developments moving forward, making sure that they have the proper size and frontage. I mean, this lot, no matter what use they want to do, would always have, you know, those restraints under our current zoning. So unless the city's inclined to do a taking on this property and say that this property cannot be developed, those variances would have to be granted. And, you know, I don't think the city's looking to do a taking. I don't think we've ever went down that road. So really, when I look at this, I kind of look at it as, does this lot meet the requirements needed to utilize a 10-foot setback rather than 20? You know, and then that kind of goes into the width of it. You know, instead of being 100 foot like is normally required, this lot's only 60 foot, and requiring 20 would only give you 20 feet in the middle. So, you know, that's just things I've noticed when I was reviewing this property.
The other thing that I would like to know is how close is the lot to the west to the lot line? Looks pretty close.
Yeah, and these lot lines are actually, they're a bit skewed. So if from the fence to the building is 16 feet. And this neighbor actually did call in and had no issue with the lesser setback.
Thank you.
Brandy, you said the removal of the structures would make this into a conforming lot from a use standpoint. So remove residential use from an I-1 district. So it'd be conforming from a use standpoint, but substandard from a platted lot standpoint, right? Or,
Yes, but the lot is already platted.
right.
I will open the public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak on behalf or against this item, please feel free to approach the mic and do so.
Can I say something?
Yes, Ken, please state your name for the record.
Yeah, this is Mr. Yackley. I live next door to the lot. And I'm not opposed to that. I think it's a good idea for the building to be there. And I've always been concerned about the setbacks, so I'm really glad that we're here doing this. That's all I have to say, but I'm totally in favor of it. I'm on the east side, I think, or the west. I'm on the west side.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for those comments. Yeah, it's good to hear. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of or against this item? The applicant is here if anyone has any questions for the applicant, if anyone from the board has any questions.
This is Ford again.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious, in their letter, they stated that the building would be used to keep vehicles, equipment, and do milling. And is that milling activity a permitted use in this, or is it a conditional use? Where does that fall?
I'll double check that, but I believe that it's permitted in the I-1 light industrial district. If it was C3, it would most likely be conditional use.
And based on what's in front of us today, we are not granting any conditional uses. We are just looking at the variance. So I assume whatever goes in there, if these variances are granted or denied, will be a permitted use.
Yep, and if not, then he would have to come back for a conditional use at a later date.
I understand that, but since it was in his letter, and if we approve this, I didn't want someone to mistakenly assume that that particular activity was approved without actually fleshing that out, just for the sake of the applicant.
Yes, and good point there, Diana. And so lumber yards are a permitted use, and milling would be, I think we'd categorize it under that.
Thanks.
Please.
Okay, my name is Gary Markman. I own the property. And I've been in the tree business for 45 years. And I've worked for the city of Worthington from 1972 until 92. Did all their boulevard trees for them. Did all their trimming, all that stuff. Anyway, then I moved to Brookings. I've been there 9 years. And I've got no complaints, no nothing from anybody. And anyway, I decided to move over here. I was going to move to Flandreau, but it didn't work out. I got the house bought, but not a place for a shop. And then, so I decided to move further north and give it a try over here. And I thought, well, when you buy a place for a business, I have all the equipment. I have bucket truck, log grapple. I don't do stumps. No money in that. And I've got everything. And but anyway, when I looked at that lot, I go, location, location, location. That's why I bought the lot, because of the location. And I bought it over the phone. And And I never even looked at it, but I did look good. And so now I'm finding out all this stuff, and I'm going like, oh man, what a nightmare. I hope I didn't throw my money out the window. Because I'm not going to give it up. I'm still going to use it even if I have to put up a tent.
But you plan on removing the house?
No, I'm going to buy another house. We're going to sell our house. We have a very nice home in Flandreau. I paid a lot of money for it.
No, sir, are you gonna remove the house, the existing
yeah,
house
yeah.
on your lot?
I started on it, and my log grapples that I used to pick the trees up with, I was going to take it down with that, and then there's a big turntable right in the middle that the thing pivots on, and that thing shattered. And so I bought a new circle, and that's in the process of being put on a truck now. As soon as I get it on, I'm coming over and I'll get that out of there. I like doing that kind of stuff. That'll reach out, 24 feet. Goes up about 30 foot in height. It'll have to, it's got a clam, opens up 72 inches. It'll pick up 10,000 pounds like it's nothing. So I'm not worried about any of that kind of stuff. I'm going to pick it up and haul it out to the dump and get rid of it. But I need this building. I need a 40-foot width is what I need so I can park my trucks in there. And this is where our office is going to be. And I'm going to put a door in the front and a door in the back. And then there'll be plenty of room in the front for parking for customers and in the rear. So it's just going to be a building is all it's going to be. And if I want anything else, then I'll have to come back.
Yeah. Well, that sounds good. Is there any questions any board member has for the applicant?
Brandy, does this property have access off Third Avenue? Is there a curb cut that doesn't appear to be from the?
Not yet, but when they redo Third Avenue, they are planning for a curb cut because it does meet sufficient spacing with our engineering design standards.
They're going to put a 40-foot in.
And so then again, the property would be accessible off First Avenue Northwest and
Both,
Third
yes.
Avenue.
I'm
Yep.
going to put a 20-foot door in the back of the building and 20-foot in the front, so if I have to, I can drive through.
Correct. And so will this be considered double frontage or Brandy, or which one will be his?
Yep, it
Primary.
is a double frontage lot. So then in the I-1, they have to be 40 foot back from that front property line.
Gotcha.
And I'm not a pack rat. Some guys are, but I'm not.
Well, thank you for explaining the process of what you do and what you need to do it.
Sorry if I'm a little crude, but I've never done this before, so it's all new to me. I get a little nervous.
No, you did fine. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing, and I'm going to ask for a motion and a second from the board, and I'm going to ask that they include all three variances in their motion, and we do one motion.
I'll make that motion with all three variances granted.
Ford seconds.
All right, I have a motion and a second, and yeah, I just would kind of like to reiterate what I said, where I think this is a unique lot, being that it was platted below our minimum lot sizes, and for that reason, I feel I could support a variance. Any other comments from the board members?
I think these kind of legacy lots that are, substandard from today's platting standards, but have been platted historically, predating the current setback requirements, are certainly a challenge that we need to look at each and every time the unique scenario. Given that it's the I-1 district with the setbacks that we have, they're a 60-foot wide lot. If you're only looking at the 20-foot side yard setbacks on either side, that leaves only a third of the lot as buildable area before you even get to those double frontage setbacks. So I think if we did the math on this lot, it would leave only about 20% buildable area according to the current standards, which is not really a very reasonable expectation of a legacy lot when we're looking at redeveloping the area. I think in general terms, it does meet the long-term comprehensive land use plan redevelopment area for a use such as this. And given the narrow lot and legacy nature of this operation, the size and setbacks seem reasonable.
Thank you for those comments, Blake. Any other comments from the board members? Hearing none, Brandy, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
All right, Ford,
Yes.
Dolly,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes,
Hanson,
Yes.
Aletsky.
Yes.
motion is approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Item 4C on the agenda is board consideration of a variance request to the front yard setback of an R3 multifamily residential district to construct a 12-plex apartment complex on Bogue Avenue. Brandy, would you take over, please?
Brink, Jeff, this is Ford. Can I say something first?
Yes, go ahead.
There'll be the petition that was emailed to all of us. I just wanted to say that I know several of those people who signed that petition, but I have been in contact with Stacy and we discussed a possible conflict of interest quite thoroughly. And I wanted to let you know that I have neither a direct nor an indirect pecuniary or personal interest in this matter today.
Thank you for making that clear. So you will not be excusing yourself, so we still have all 5 of us. That correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you for clarifying that. Go ahead, Brandy.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Diana. And thank you, Jeff. So this is a variance request for the property to the south of Bogue Avenue. It was former railroad property that then has been conveyed now to the current owner of Walford Properties. And so what they're proposing is, for one, the zoning designation is R3 multifamily residential. So the zoning is appropriate for the 12-plex that they are proposing. And I'll pull that up, and actually I'm going to pull up a different map here. Okay. Actually, no, we're going to walk through it this way. So currently the property is platted as one lot. And then as they progress with the project, they probably will subdivide it further. But if you notice, it does have, this property is very narrow. And then also it is encumbered by many easements. There are a lot of storm sewer utility pipes running throughout that area. So it does cause difficulty with having buildable space. And so what they're, let me pull this one up now. So what we're looking at today, they're asking for a front yard setback from the structure, which is a proposed 12-plex. So they're asking for, at the narrowest part here, that setback would be 21.2 feet. And in the R3 district, when you have a 12-plex, the front yard setback is typically 30. And then, so you'll see there on that northeast corner, it's 21.2 feet. And then on the northwest corner, it is 26 feet. And a unique thing about this proposal is that typically with a front yard setback, you do that. It's there for the purpose that there are curb cuts and driveways in the front yard. And so then to have the 25 feet is so that if there is a car parked in the driveway, that it would not be encroaching over the sidewalk, so there's sufficient space. Now, they're not proposing any curb cuts or driveway on the front side, which is the north against Bogue Avenue. They're not proposing any curb cuts or driveways there. There will still be sidewalk, and then they'll be accommodating for required parking on the west side of the building, and the curb cuts would come off there. Now, they are showing them, and I did lay this in here to the current platted lot, just so we can see it holistically of which area, because obviously it's a very narrow, long, narrow piece of property that spans the entire Bogue Avenue. So when you see scaled out like this, they will be going in by 15th in this location. And then the parking, this is narrow, but they still can utilize that. And then also I'll turn on the utilities here so you can see all of the storm sewer outside of the easements so yeah, you can see here that all of the blue lines, the dark blue, that is the storm sewer. And so then they can utilize that area for parking, and then they have just small windows where there's actually buildable area. So, and then just to point out too, they, within the comprehensive land use plan for future land use of this area, it is shown for campus and, let me find the right wording there. Medium
Campus
density
district.
residential is the, sorry, it's medium density residential within that area to the south. The property has been zoned R3 previously, so that's not what we're acting on. It is just for the front yard setback from 21.2 feet from the required 30. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Brandy, and thank you, Diana, for pointing out this letter. Of course, I'm sure we all read this letter before this meeting, and in reading this letter,
Jeff, can I give a little background on, because just that you guys have that packet? Do you mind if?
Go ahead, Brandy.
So, and sorry to cut you off, but just for context of what letter he's referring to. So staff did receive 4 calls in opposition of the project and then 1 in support. And then there was a petition that circulated throughout the neighborhood and there were 48 signatures on there. And just that's the background, and I'll turn it back over to Jeff.
No, thank you for that. I should have explained what I was talking about so everyone knew. So I did get this petition. Like you said, there's 48 people that live in the area. They have their address listed. They've all signed that they say that they're against this building permit and that we should deny it. And I just want to kind of point out that the use that's being proposed is a permitted use, and that if they had a site plan that showed a 30-foot setback, that would not come before this board. It would just be allowed to be built. Am I correct in my statement, Brandy?
Yes.
Yeah, because this is an R3 zone property, which allows a 12-plex, and it just needs to have the 30-foot setback in the front yard. So even if we deny this application that's in front of us, the applicant could still redesign their proposed 12-plex to be narrower and taller, because they're allowed to go up to 55 feet in height and still build a 12-plex. I just wanted to make that known for the record, that our job today with this application is not whether or not a 12-plex can go in, but whether or not a variance should be granted in the front yard. So I just wanted to make that clear before I opened up the public hearing, because I don't want us to go down the road of talking about whether or not it should be a 12-plex, because that is not something that this board can address at this meeting.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to point out that we do have 2, in addition to the petition, there are 2 additional letters as well that are against the project. Just for full transparency to the board and others.
Okay, my question is on these letters that I read, that they're talking about pond and storm sewers. Are they talking about those 2 areas right there, Brandy? For drainage?
So I believe that they're asking if, so this is actually a city stormwater detention pond.
Yes.
And so with this first phase of this project, they would not be required to have on-site detention because they don't exceed the 1 acre of impervious surface. So if the project would progress and they would meet that threshold of the 1 acre, then they would have to do on-site detention. But that is something that we look at during the site plan review. And so basically with this, that'll be reviewed after the variance, after they know if they can move forward with submitting plans and whatnot. But most likely that threshold will not be met.
Okay, but still, just wondering, because the parking lot, so all the water from the parking lot is going to go right into that storm sewer. But right now, obviously, from Bogue Avenue and stuff, it runs right over this property already, right?
It would go in the storm sewer.
as it goes. If there's like a rain incident, the
Yeah.
water goes right to there. It's directed to do that. So when they if they build their parking lot, are they going to take that into consideration, or are we going to have ponding on the street and then flooding into their yards?
Right. So actually, these storm sewer pipes are very large. And so they do have capacity to take that on. And so when you're under the 1 acre of impervious surface, then the storm sewer can handle it. And so right now, the area is bermed. So when that comes down, they would make sure that the drainage would run to the storm sewer or to the back to that pond. And it would be accommodated that way. And like I said, these pipes are
What
they're
I'm trying
large.
to get at is so we don't have where, if you look along 14th Avenue, like across the street from the Prairie Lakes Wellness Center and stuff, you got where that water is standing. And that's not what these people want in their front yard.
No, and so in that area, that is open water conveyance. It's an open channel. The benefit here is that there is sufficiently sized storm sewer pipe. So the water will drain to the pipe. And it won't be standing other than in this location where the pond already exists.
Thank you for that question and clarification. I will open up the public hearing. I know there's a lot of people here today to speak on this item, and I just ask that we try to be brief and not reiterate something that someone else has said. I mean, we can say that we second it, but to just try to keep the meeting moving along in a timely manner, try to be brief with your comments. But the public hearing is open. If you're here to speak in favor or against this item, please feel free to approach the mic and do so.
Hi, my name is Stella Ingerbretson, and I live at Bogue and 16th. And I guess when we moved into our house in '04, we had to follow the rules. We had to have the right ordinances. We couldn't build. I'm sorry, I don't speak very good publicly. And we're not against. We know he's going to build at some point. We just don't want it 9 feet closer to my house. When you take that 21.2 from the middle of the road to the front of his apartment building, you think about how close that is. 9 feet closer is a lot. And we know where he's going to build something. I mean, it's his property. We get that. It's just the idea that, and we are worried about the retention pond back there, not only for the fact of if the water's going to drain right. You can say it's going to drain right, but if something screws up in construction, possibly it's not. But also, what if little kids move in there? Then you got a holding pond back there. That's another concern for us. Plus, I don't want to look at a tall building right across the street from me. And then if he's going to keep going down, the property only gets skinnier. So you can't keep building 12 plexes all the way down. I mean, I get he gets to build something, but in my feeling, I think he needs to be scaled down. And I think if they make ordinances for a reason, that we should stick with them. I didn't get to change my ordinance when I moved in that house. And lots of other people have added on and done lots of things. And I just think, build what you want, but follow the ordinances. They're in place for a reason. I guess that's all I have.
Thank you for those comments.
My name is Wanda. I'm here on behalf of Kathy Dahl. She lives on the corner of Arrow Avenue and 19th. Now, according to the way you have this set, you're going to cut off her backyard, which cuts off the corner of her garage. Now, she was the first one on that street. She's been paying property taxes on that piece of land all these years. Now you want to take that away from her? It doesn't make sense. Do you see where her garage is there? Right there. It's ticking off the corner because you want to put your variance out that far into her property that she's been paying for. I don't want him to build there. That's a skinny, skinny piece of land. If he wants to take the berm down, fine, take it down. But don't put anything there and take her land. You're taking parts. Look at the house down there. Taking apart that one, you're taking right up to there. He's taking everything. That's where the variance goes there.
So if I could clarify, so that they can't take any property that somebody else owns. So they would not, this variance is just the setback from the front property line. And in this area, this would be a side yard, actually. It wouldn't be a front yard. It will be subdivided. So this is only for this portion, which will become lot 2, I think. So none, if somebody has built on somebody else's property, then that's a civil issue, but it's nothing that this variance would be granting.
So he takes the berm down. He's going to take it from here to here, down, and then he's going to own it?
Well, he already,
Am I understanding it correctly?
he already does own it. And so if to build on it, most likely the berm would have to come down.
Okay. So if he owns the land that she's already on, that she's been paying taxes on all these years, see where her property is? All that.
So she would still have her property. That won't,
Minus, what, 25 feet? Or what are we talking
So
about here?
I'll try to help out. If we zoom in a little closer, that highlighted area in blue should be approximately what she owns. Those lines are not official, but they are very accurate. So what's inside of blue there is what she owns, and then just south to that is where the berm is.
Yeah.
And that berm is currently the applicant's property. They own I believe they own this whole stretch, and right now they're looking to subdivide and put a 12-plex down farther west on Bogue Avenue. But where the property line is will remain. The question is what setbacks should be allowed. The ordinance states a 30-foot front yard, 15-foot side yards, and a 25-foot backyard. And so with this application that's in front of us, they're meeting the side yards and the backyard, and they're just requesting for a variance on the front yard from 30 feet down to 21.2 feet, which is 22 or 21.2 feet from the property line. That's is as close as their building would be to the property line. In that
So they're
area.
not going to come and mess. I mean, I agree with her.
Yeah.
This should not be allowed because they've been there for years and years and years, and now he wants to come in and put up a big whatever. Yeah, I don't care if he builds. Build. We knew it was coming. But don't start messing with the neighborhood. There's nothing wrong with the neighborhood. Build small little houses. Don't do whatever all this crap is you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah.
we'll see if,
I'm going to try public speaking.
good deal. You got it.
Hi, I'm Doug Mogg. I represent Eastside Storage and Eastside Estates, right up in that area. Can you back out a little bit? As you can see of the storage units, right where Brandy has the cursor, it's railroad grade. I'm in the same shoes that Terry is in. It's a non-conforming piece of land, very hard to build on, very hard to place buildings on. Yeah, as you can see, the storm sewer also runs through my property. I was in front of the board here many a times trying to decide what to do with the land. I own the land. I was going to build something there. I wasn't going to leave gardens occupy it. I got turned down a lot up here. Left very mad a lot of times. As you can see, it turned out pretty good by the board turning me down. We found a building pattern that would work, and that's why these setbacks are put in place. Not to put a building oversized for the piece of land you own. Terry, I hope it works out for him. He should build something there. He owns the land. But to put a building on that's larger than that can accommodate, that the land can accommodate, is a mistake. He can still build an eightplex. He can, yes, he'll build there, and I'm sure he will. But the one question I have for the board, and if you approve this, I would like it answered, is I had to prove a hardship. Every time I come up here, I had to prove a hardship. What's his hardship? Wants a bigger building. That is not a hardship. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering, this is that property here, that with the setbacks.
Brandy, before I get too far into that property, I'd like to just try to keep it on the property at hand. I don't want to measure off what
No.
other setbacks we have on other properties, but thank
We
you.
followed setbacks. I asked for an ordinance or a
Yep.
variance and a setback, and I was denied.
So,
I was on the
A 4-foot setback instead of 9.
Hello. Excuse me. My name is Lisa Carrico. I did receive one of the letters in the mail about the variance request, and I did call Walford's to figure out what they were going to do and what they were proposing. I don't have any problem with it. I mean, it's a convoluted lot, and my understanding from Brandy in her presentation was we're only talking about the front yard in the setback. I also asked him, what was being built, and he did say that they were 3-bedroom units. As a landlord and as an attorney who represents a crap ton of landlords, like 50 probably, I get a lot of calls from people that need 3-bedroom units to rent. I understand that there's a lot of development going on downtown, but those are mostly single, right? 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. You don't have stuff for families or single parents with a lot of kids. And since the driveway, or what she was talking about, since there's like this side parking lot, I mean, I guess I don't see the problem. Also, and I understand that some of the residents that live on the corner of 16th and when I think is 17th, their driveways do enter onto, and their front of their houses do look onto Bogue Avenue. The ones on 15th, though, when I was driving by, they're not actually, I mean, yeah, there's 2 driveways or side driveways, but they're not actually entering onto Bogue. So it's not like if you're sitting in your front yard or your backyard and you're looking straight out, you're just looking at another neighbor. It's not like you're looking at an apartment building. But even if you are, I mean, this whole area is zoned for that. So I guess I wasn't even really understanding what the big deal was. But in all fairness, I don't live there. I own a building there. So I own a residential unit. And as I reached out to my tenant, could care less. But anyway, so that's just my 2 cents. It's a convoluted lot. It's 1 building. Sounds like the drainage is taken care of. And as far as accommodating economic development and the need for 3-bedroom units, yeah, it's a need that needs to be met. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you for your comments.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, please come back to the mic. But yes, you can say more. But the people online can't hear you unless you're at the mic. So
I just want to say one thing. I get that we need family units here. I get it. But it also doesn't need to be on the tiniest little lot. Where are those kids going to play? What are they going to do? If you build that apartment building that big, you're going to have kids in it, right? That's what she's saying. She wants a place for kids. Where are they going to play? There's going to be no grass. There's going to be nothing but a parking lot. I mean, I get that we need that housing in town, But it doesn't need to be done on a little tiny lot like that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Lawrence. I'm a property owner. I own some two 12-unit, or I own one. My father owns one 12-unit apartment complex. Is very similar to this. I take a look at this, and at the calls I get from LHEI and the students that are coming to this community, and some of the prices that they're being forced to pay now for one-bedroom units because these 3 bedrooms aren't available for them. I see what they're saying here. That 9 feet. This is a front yard, so it is across the street from them. And if you look at that map, if you were to take some of those, I'm going to guess those double front yards on those corner units, some of them are built into, because you look at the size and how close some of those houses are to that street, Bogue. It looks like maybe that some of those might fall into this area where they're over the line. Here nor there though. I hear comments about height. Well, they can go higher. You could go skinnier and higher and have even a bigger wall there. You can design a building. It's kind of be careful what you wish for type of thing. They're able to build on the land. There's storm sewers behind them. The community, he's my competition. He's also my cousin. But I'm getting those calls. We're getting those calls. They're having to pay more. Some of the students can't even come here, or they're saying it's $900 for one bedroom to come here. Building rooms closer to campus with more bedrooms opens up the opportunity for that school to grow. And we desperately are going to need it. And like I said, I'm the competition. The more I can charge, the better. But it's a need in this community, and I think if you ask anyone, even up at the school or landlords that are getting the phone calls, I'm turning people away, which means that the community might be turning people away. So just something to keep in mind. I feel for the neighbors. I've been up here and have had to ask for things similar. That's what this board is for. But to say, hey, we don't want kids by a pond. That's not what we're here for today. We're here for today is 9 feet. Not where they're going to play, not how high the building is. It's the 9 feet. So just wanted to throw my support out there. I think we need this for the school. I think, when you look at students coming into the community, it's a good thing.
Thank you for those comments.
Can I have another shot at it?
Yeah, as long as. Yeah.
Doug Mogg, east side of St. Eastside Storage. I'm also a landlord in this town. Got some structures right up in that area by chance. 3 bedroom, 12 plexes. The concerns that people are expressing here are real. Where are the kids going to play? I am nothing but a cop up there telling kids to get off the parking lot, get the bicycles off the parking lot, don't leave them in the streets. It is your guys' job as a board to say, is this a good fit for this building? Yes, he's going to build something, but you guys are giving the okay to break the rules to get it fit in there. I think it's wrong. Yes, he can build there, but I don't think any special exception should be made at this time. The tree guy that was here earlier, I was going to get up and just voice my yes, it should be. That was an old lot years ago. He has a hardship. There's no hardship here. The drainage, Mrs. Carrico, is it?
We own the same building.
She said that the drainage was taken care of or addressed. I asked Brandy this morning in her office, when I came up to put my development up, I needed a site plan on all the drainage, not just the first structure I put up. Because what happens if that structure's put up, the pavement's all sloping the wrong way, he comes up 2 years with a different structure in the pond in the center, and now all the parking lots are sloped to the street. I hope that's a requirement that's still required, is a full site plan of the whole site on where the water's gonna go. Thanks.
Yes, and to speak on that, he will be subdividing this lot, so we would look at it at the per lot. So right now it's just the one lot. They'll want to look at it comprehensively, but when we look at a site plan, it is a per lot basis. So if they do leave it all as one, then we would look at it that way.
And just to add, if I may, we at this point in time have not received any grading or any drainage plans or anything like that, but they will be required prior to a building permit, should this be granted.
Thank you both for the comments and the city staff input. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, Chance Walford with Walford Properties. So, as to what Doug was saying, the problem we're having, our hardship right now, is to get between those two pipes. I would love to go narrower and wider, but I can't. And the reason we want to do 12 units is to maximize the use of the lot. We have this other unbuildable lot to the west of us, which we can put a lot of parking in. I think I can probably get 80 parking spots in that lot. We only had Darwin draw you 37 for this. But if we build a fourplex there, it doesn't do any good to have that much land for parking when we only need 12 parking spots. So our hardship really is the sewer lines. And as to everybody worried about the retention pond, we own the retention pond. We gave the retention pond back to the city because the city had like $2 million into that pond and we didn't want anything to happen to it, so we gave it back to them. We could have kept it, I could have filled it in, I could have put a playground there, but we gave it back to the city. So when we had it with our attorneys, we had rights to do whatever we wanted to it. You know, it was all given to us in a real estate transaction between the WDC and us. So, I'm trying to think of what other questions. Do you guys have any questions?
I guess I'll ask the first question of is, you know, if we did narrow this up to make it a conforming lot, could you not go higher and still get your 12 units?
No, we're trying to replicate the size of a fourplex we built 2 blocks away. We like the size of the rooms. The tenants really like it. They're spacious. You have the plan of it. And if we shrink it down, the rooms are going to get really small. They're going to get packed in there. And the problem with the 12plex is we need the middle hallway. Where the fourplex, we didn't need the hallway, so the fourplex was only 48 foot wide. I can shrink it down. I mean, if I have to, I'm going to, but it's not ideal. You know, especially if we do rent to VOTEC kids and you have 3 kids in one unit, you know, you don't want them in 600 square feet, 3 non-related relatives, so.
Are there any other questions from the board members to the applicant as he's at the stand?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment or mention something different than what has been said?
Hi, I'm Roger Reese. I live on the end of Bogue and 18th. My question is if you give them a variance on this property right here, now from what I've seen, it's all zone 1. It's lot 1. It's all considered lot 1. That whole piece of property is lot 1. Am I wrong?
No.
So if you give it to him there, what's to say he can't come across the street from my house and do the same damn thing?
So this variance is just for the structure and its location. And so then he will.
You're saying you're going to do, he's get a variance on that lot. That's lot 1.
Just for this building permit application.
Variances go with the structure, not with the lot. So each and every lot or shed or garage needs its own needs to be approved. So if this is granted or denied and they came with any other requests that were less than the 30-foot minimum, even if we granted or denied this, they would have to come before us.
Well, technically, I'm going to say, 15 years ago, the city bought that from the railroad? Bogue Avenue Watershed Project is what it was. That was never, ever supposed to get sold to anybody or given to them. That's what we were told as landowners when I lived there. That the city was never going to get rid of that land because it was actually going to be watershed project, and that's what it is. There's water drainage through that whole damn thing.
And I don't know the history of that, to confirm or deny it.
I don't understand why the city just up and give it away in the first place, or sold it to him, or whatever, traded it. It was wrong. We were told by the railroad a long time ago that the adjacent landowners were going to have first chance to buy that property. And I talked to the railroad several times, and so did the other neighbor. He's not there no more, but he talked to him too. And they completely told us that the railroad was we were going to be the first ones to get first shot at buying that land, or getting that land. All of a sudden one day I walk up and there's some guy up there surveying. I said, "Oh, you're surveying that for the railroad?" "Oh, no," he said, "the city bought it." So I don't know how the city got it in the first place, but I'm just saying, the city told us straight out, because I asked to buy a piece of that property so I could put a garage over there, and I couldn't do it because the city owned it and the city would not sell it. And I'm not the only one that wanted to put something over there. I could have put garages up there and rented them out to every one of them damn neighbors for their boat or camper or whatever. We couldn't do it.
It would have had to be zoned appropriately.
And that's fine. But I'm just saying, the city would not sell it to anybody.
And so, in the comprehensive,
I don't want to. I don't know the history of how this property.
Well,
owner
that's what I'm
became
wondering about. If you give it to him down there, what's to say he ain't going to come back and do it by me or anybody else?
It's a great question. One variance doesn't set a precedent. Each application is a new application for each building.
I mean, actually, I'm getting tired of looking at that goddamn grass growing this high that they don't take care of. When I took care of that land for the railroad, I did it with a weed eater. I don't care how they got to do it. They should take care of it with a weed eater. I haven't been up here bitching about it, but I probably should have. And I'm sure everybody else down that street sure don't like the looks of that shit. I mean, come by and look at it. Tell me what you think.
and we can relay that to the code enforcement officer.
That's fine. I'm just, that's fine.
Yes, we do appreciate the
I
comments.
just want to make sure that he can't come down there and make 9 foot off that and build something over there.
Thank you.
I'd just like to come up here and get my name in the public record. This is Eric Scott. No, I don't have a horse in this race. I'm just a community citizen. I have nothing to do with this particular project. I recall similar conversations on other developments, and LATI, all I'd say is just consider LATI is a huge economic driver for our community. And whether it's LATI or just the general, we have a lot of apartments too, and they are needed. I've asked for variances on other properties because there are wonky spaces and strange spaces. And, I think they've come up with creative use to get the density that's appropriate or that you need to make a project work and that the community needs and LATC needs. To the point, I guess one thing that stood out to me in the conversation is the setbacks. Those things are there for a reason. And as Brandy alluded to initially, a lot of that is for driveway setbacks and things like this. And so there is some nice green space and some buffer between the road and the building rather than just parking lot there. So you could go longer and wider. Now you've got parking lot, you've got people backing right out onto the road, which causes a potential safety issue rather than being able to turn around in a parking lot and go out that direction. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to speak in favor of or against this item? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second from the board. Yeah, for discussion, yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second for discussion.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the variance. So when I look at lots and, you know, whether or not they should grant a variance, kind of like I mentioned earlier, is that lot a unique shape? And although this lot is a unique shape as it goes east and west, you know, like was mentioned with the parking lot, where this building is being located, it looks to me like, you know, that's 100 feet by 150 feet, which is, you know, there's a square portion in there approximately that size that would make it a fairly regular shaped lot, which on our site map is kind of drawn out as lot 4A. Means that lot is, you know, I know there's easements there and there's utility lines there. I do believe that there could be a process to get those lines relocated. You know, that could change how and where you can build, but with the size of that lot, I think it's hard for me to support a variance. I mean, if we moved it back 8.8 feet, it's completely conforming. Any other comments from the board members?
The one that I have is build to the ordinance, build into what you have to do, and that's why we have the rules, is for the setbacks. And with all of them, that drainage and stuff, I don't know. That's a lot of hard service for the water to run underneath, over, around. It just, I don't know. It's a funny shaped lot. Build to the ordinance. That's why we have them. I mean, like Doug, I was on the board many a time watching Doug come up and what can he do, and that's what we had to do.
Yeah, so not a question tonight really is, you know, the nature of the project, right? Which is a development of an R3 lot with a permitted use of an apartment building. The scope of the question really is around that setback requirement, right? And when we look at the available lot that the applicant has, while there are some unique factors to it, it's a substantial amount of square footage, not just what's, you know, highlighted there on the screen, but the applicant owns, you know, that entire stretch of land there. There's multiple configurations that could be put on this. So while the overall shape of the lot is fairly unique, it's definitely got enough space to put a configuration on that works with the existing ordinance.
Thank you.
This is Ford.
Go ahead, Diana.
I've tried to eliminate the emotional arguments that many people presented. And for me, I guess an unnecessary hardship that's both substantial and compelling has not been proven for me. There is a lot of land there.
Thank you. Are there any other further comments from board members? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Brandy?
All right. Brink.
No.
Dolly.
No.
Hanson.
No.
Oletsky.
No.
Ford.
No.
Motion fails. Fifth item on the agenda is open public comment. Brandy, did you receive any?
No.
Sixth item on the agenda is new business. Do we have any new business?
Nope.
Seventh item on the agenda is old business. Do we have any old business?
No.
Ford has something.
Go ahead, Ford.
Has. I wonder if it's possible at our next Board of Adjustment meeting to have a House of Dreams update.
Sure, we can do that.
Thanks.
No, that's a good point. Thank you for that. Any other old business? I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call vote?
Yes. Ford.
Yes.
Dolly,
Yes.
Aletsky,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
We are adjourned. I'll give it a couple minutes while we switch over